Hey, what's going on? DDO players, Axel here. So we got a huge news drop today. The producer's letter came out. It outlines everything that SSG wants to do in DDO this year. Tons of huge announcements. Let's just get into it. I'm not going to waste too much time here at the beginning blabbering on. Greetings, everybody. I'm DDO producer Amanda Tolero Grow, and I'm writing to tell you what we have in store for this year. If you are just joining us or returning after a break, welcome. Here are some of the things we've been up to. Looking back, 2024 saw us celebrating a big year with the 50th anniversary of D&D. We've been distributing free gifts that are still available to claim as we wrap up the Year of the Dragon. Read more about these gifts on DDO.com. So if you haven't been tuned into DDO much lately, they've been giving out something for free to all players every month of this past year. In this coming month, they're doing the last giveaway with the new archetype, which Tolero goes into right here. Our final Year of the Dragon gift is the new Dragon Disciple Monk archetype, which will be free for everyone to claim with our 19th anniversary in late February until March 26th. So it's if you just want the lowdown on it, it's basically a caster monk hybrid type character. She continues on here. We released our Magic of Myth Draenor expansion that brought players to the Forgotten Realms to experience Myth Draenor's infamous wild magic. We introduced a new Ravenloft-themed live event called Lanterns in the Mist for our brand new 64-bit server, Cormyr. The story culminates with a raid being released for all DDO players soon. The raid will release shortly after our anniversary and features a new enemy we're very eager to see people battle, a Hydra. So I just did a video last week. If you want to check it out, I go through the raid on Lamordia. I show you footage of it, talk all about the mechanics. If you want to know how the raid works and see it, go check out that video. She continues on. There is still plenty of time to get your Lantern rewards as well, since the event runs through April 15th on Cormyr. Okay, so getting more into stuff for this current year, New Worlds. In a previous producer's letter, I mentioned that our team has been undertaking efforts to improve game performance. The 64-bit Cormyr server was a huge part of that, as it allowed us to best optimize how our game runs. So if you aren't tuned into DDO lately, they started one 64-bit server, Cormyr, 64 bits, having more processing power than the 32 bits servers, that the old legacy servers that we're all playing on, most of us are still playing on, which is every server that's not Cormyr. They have his less, being a 32-bit server, has less processing power, therefore there's worse performance. Essentially, that's the simple way. So they've been working on the 64-bit servers and getting everyone over there to a 64-bit server, which we're going to get more into that in a second. Thanks to the hard work of our team, as well as the important feedback we've heard from you, we are happy to report that we have made substantial improvements to game performance. So I think most players definitely agree with that. I mean, I haven't been playing over there. People are telling me generally that, yeah, the lag is a lot better over there, even if it does have some issues from time to time, which I know this past week it did have some issues. But in general, it seems like, yeah. I mean, what Tolero is saying, what players are telling me is that, yeah, it's definitely an improvement. Okay, so she continues on. I'll write more about our work to combat lag in the developer diary in the future, but for now, all I can say is we are confident in our results, and we will be rolling out an important change to all of DDO this year. Here we go. This is the big news. We will be introducing a new 64-bit game. We will be introducing new 64-bit game servers to all of DDO, including the addition of new servers based in Europe. That's a huge one because we didn't think that there would be a 64-bit server in Europe. Okay, so as we get closer, we will announce more specifics about how these upgrades will happen, but we want the good performance people are seeing on Cormyr to be possible for all DDO characters. We will be offering free transfers to our 64-bit worlds from our 32-bit worlds when we open these new servers, and we will have full details about the transfer process when we get closer to these servers opening. Our community has been crucial to making this a reality, and we look forward to sharing more information as we get closer to the launch of this project. And I want to note that on the roadmap here, they have this in Q2, new 64-bit worlds. So that means it should be happening by at the very latest, the end of June or so, since it does say Q2. So that obviously gigantic news. We know that they've been working on this, and we've known that the general plan is to get everyone transferred to a 64-bit world at some point. But what we didn't know is when. And this gives us a much better idea that, yeah, it's going to happen fairly soon. I was a little worried. We've seen some issues with Cormyr performance. I didn't know where they were with it, and if it would be possible even this year to get everyone transferred. So it's an amazing amazing news to hear that, yes, it appears like they're planning for everyone have transfers available to new 64-bit worlds by June. I mean, they don't say June specifically, but it's listed in Q2. So I'm going to go ahead and say, based on this letter, June at the latest. So apparently, I know we've had a lot of issues. Well, not issues, but there's been a lot of discussion about how will certain things transfer, because certain things like, Axel shards or guilds or your names, apparently they figured out a way to handle that. You would think. I mean, maybe probably things like names you may not be able to transfer, but things that people have paid for, I have to imagine that they've figured out some kind of solution to that. They don't really get that specific here, but that's what I would assume based on them having listing this in Q2. So so great news. Why is this such great news? Not just do we get better game performance being on 64-bit worlds instead of 32, and we can actually transfer our legacy characters. Because if you're like me, you weren't willing to start over on Cormyr when you put 10, 15 years into your current characters. But not only that, but we're going to get more important, even just as important as that to me, is player consolidation. We don't know how many servers there are yet. We know we have Cormyr, and we're going to have a European-based one apparently, because the current server Cormyr is in Las Vegas, and I would have to assume that the new ones will be there as well. We don't really know. In terms of more North American ones, we don't know if we're going to have 3 or 4 or 2, or how many 64-bit servers we're going to have. I actually have to assume at least 3. Probably 4. I would imagine. My guess would be 4. We don't know. But in any case, we're going to be more consolidated as a player base than we are now. That means players are going to have an easier time finding groups, easier time finding people to play with, easier time finding people to raid with. So all that is great news. DDO, as it's gotten older, it's so clear that we don't need as many servers as we do, and we need to, I would hope, at least half the number of servers with this transfer to the 64-bit servers. So yeah, awesome news. And to me, that's the biggest issue that DDO's had in the past 5 years, is just getting players consolidated and getting people, because nothing else in the game matters if you don't have people to play the game with, right? I mean, unless you're strictly a soloer, but for most people, they want people to play with, right? So yeah, awesome news. Okay, so let's continue on now. The year holds other updates and fun besides game performance improvements. We will be creating new dungeons this spring that will progressively unlock, and we'll have more information about it as we get closer. So they've done this before with dungeons progressively unlocking with the Illithid event and the Illithid dungeons. Those are the ones in Sharn that award cards. So it's probably going to be like that. So they do mention new dungeon content in Q2. So I have to assume this refers to that. And I would imagine that would be a free adventure pack. They don't say that specifically in this letter, but since it's going to be some kind of progressively unlocking, meaning a server-wide event, then you would have to imagine it would be free-to-play content, or it could be a situation where it's free-to-play for a period of time, and then at some point after you've had an opportunity to participate and claim it, maybe it then goes back to paid in the store or something, kind of like Slice of Life was temporarily available for free as an adventure pack, but we don't have those details, so I'm just speculating on that. But I have to imagine that my best guess is that it will be free-to-play content. But yeah, let's continue on here. They talk about our next batch of rewards for the VIP loyalty reward program that will be added to the current list. So they're going to announce that, but they're not ready to announce that yet. So if you aren't aware of that, last year they started this VIP reward program where every month, kind of like the Year of the Dragon rewards, except it's just for VIPs, and it's on top of those Year of the Dragon rewards. So you can go into the Hall of Heroes if you're VIP and get something every month. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not so good, but we're going to have a whole new list of rewards for that, which we have to expect that was coming because this is a new thing going forward. The VIP reward program is a continual thing. So yeah, we'll get a new rundown of rewards, but they are in this letter. So it says this next wave of rewards includes bonuses that stack with prior year's bonuses in addition to more VIP cosmetics. Okay. And let's go quickly, and there's some stuff here you can see we'll talk about, and we'll go back to this roadmap here. So Into the Mist. This summer, we're headed to Ravenloft with a new expansion set in Lamordia. So yeah, back to Ravenloft. Lamordia features the distinct Victorian-style horror theme Ravenloft is famous for, and introduced a new playable character race called the Dhampir. I don't know if it's Dhampir or Dhampir. How you pronounce? I'm sorry. I'm going to say Dhampir, but you all correct me if I'm wrong on the pronunciation. But anyways, she says we're going to introduce the new race called the Dhampir, who are poised between the worlds of the living and the dead. Story-wise, players will discover who has been working to free Dark Lords from their Ravenloft domains and why. Dark Lords breaking loose is a big problem. We know our players are no strangers to extraplanar threats, and we are up to the task. So, Ravenloft, we're returning to Ravenloft for an expansion. This was very obvious. We've been talking about this for a while because Lamordia they put it into the build so you could see it on the Adventure Compendium under the Wildernesses for quite a while in game. Plus, we had all the myths related like lantern events and things. Everything was pointing to a return to Ravenloft for the expansion. So yeah, so that was easy to call. Another thing that's interesting is they've been operating on a mini expansion, full expansion cycle, and they're breaking that. This is going to be a full expansion. This was confirmed by Tolero on the DDO forums today. So yeah, even though the letter doesn't state it explicitly, this is going to be a full expansion, which I'm not surprised. I actually been talking about this on my stream. I'm going to say I called it because I really did. Because I was like, okay, we're going back to Ravenloft. Are they really not going to do a full expansion going back to Ravenloft, which is like the most famous, not just D&D module, like campaign setting ever, but also in DDO, it's the most loved expansion from my experiences from players. I'm like, are they really going to make that a mini? But they are going to make it a full. I'm not too surprised to see that, even though we did just have a full last year with Myth Draenor. So yeah. And as far as the new race, Dhampir, they are basically as terms of a race, they're basically the product of a human and a vampire parent. So they're basically kind of like the Marvel character Blade, if you want to think of it that way. They're basically a human vampire hybrid. So yeah, so that's we'll see more about that. I mean, we don't have much more other than any more details about them, but you can certainly go and look at the like the pen and paper D&D stats for them and abilities and learn more about them if you want to. They always adapt that into the game. But yeah, that's not too surprising. They've been talking for a while, like years ago, from an old Several and Cordovan Q&A about how like it would have been cool if there was a like undead universal tree, and I personally am not surprised to see that they went with an undead kind of undead race for a return to Ravenloft. So yeah, so Lamordia, that's our expansion for 2025. Let's continue on. The next event, later this year, we will host another live event, but this time it will be across all servers. Word on the street is that we have Fey Mischief afoot. Players can opt into the event so they can group with others, even if those players are working on a different goal, a hardcore goal, or no goal at all. So this is going to be another, presumably, version of the Lanterns event. So another hardcore-like event. And they mentioned you can opt in if you want. So it's going to probably work similarly to Lanterns in the Mist event, where it's like you can choose to progress on a hardcore route where dying wipes out all your progress, or you can proceed to go on a non-hardcore route where it doesn't. So Tolero continues and says, we'll be making some improvements on our event tech as well as based on player input from previous events, including more visually distinctive rewards for our most challenging goals, as well as looking to the possibility of leaderboards for this upcoming event. So this is a really good thing. And that was my biggest criticism about Lanterns in the Mist this year, is that the rewards or very little is done to incentivize players to go the hardcore path, because the rewards are exactly the same with just a little tiny skull that you can barely see like stamped onto it. There needs to be, to make it feel more like hardcore was with the like old hardcore days, there needs to be something completely visually distinctive, something that's exclusive to the hardcore path only, that's really, really, really cool to make players want to do that. Because I feel like this year no one really did the hardcore path, because it was basically the same thing with no risk to go with the non-hardcore route. But as far as leaderboards would be cool, they mentioned leaderboards here. As far as this, guys, I think this is it's pretty clear that this is the path for, a hardcore like event going forward. I don't think we're going to see ever again the traditional hardcore where they create a separate server and you die and go to the land of lost souls and all that, because they don't want to divide the player base, and they're trying to offer it in a way that can keep players playing together, and rather than do what they would do with hardcore, where they'd offer that as a separate server, huge portion of the player base goes over there and plays, and the regular servers kind of suffer and players get more divided. They're trying to kind of have their cake and eat it too, by having like everybody on the same servers running the events if they want to. And if you don't want to run the event, you can still play with people who are running the event. So anyways, Tolero wraps up here by saying, we will have more to come during the year, but that is a high-level look at our plans. I am so happy to be here working for the community of the game. We all love playing it together with friends, guildies, family, peers, and others. I look forward to another year together, and I will see you in game with sincerity, Tolero. So let's look again at the roadmap. So it looks like we're having Q1 stuff. We know, new raid, we know. Q2, 64-bit worlds, new dungeon content, VIP rewards, PAX East community event as well. That's in Boston. Looks like they're having another event, although there was nothing mentioned in the letter itself about that meetup. Let's see, Lamordia expansion. So it does look like it'll be a full expansion. They do mention a few details here. Dhampir race, new landscape, and more. But since it's a full expansion, as confirmed by Tolero, that means we'll likely have a landscape and a raid, at least one raid. I hope we get 2 raids, but at least 1 raid. But yeah, what else? Live event, Q4. Not probably more things in Q4 they haven't really mentioned, but the Lanterns event will be Feywild themed in some capacity. But yeah, guys, I think that's about it for the that's about it for the video today. So probably we'll be talking about this more in a podcast coming up shortly. Not today, but sometime in the near future. But yeah, guys, let me know what you think about this. I would be interested to see, hear your thoughts on the producer's letter. I want to say thank you to my Patreon supporters, Brian Rasmussen and Brent Erickson. And yeah, guys, that's it for the video today. Hope you have a good one. Take care.